I call the meeting to order. Valerie, go.
Got it.
Got it. So we're recording. Let me read the opening, and then we can start the agenda items. Pursuant to Governor Baker's this is the Economic Development meeting of May 11th, 6 p.m. via Zoom. Pursuant to Governor Baker's COVID-19 orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather, this meeting of the Economic Development Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting via Zoom can do so by clicking on the link that is in the agenda that is published on the Economic Development page on the town's website. Members of the public who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may also do so via telephone by dialing 1-646-558-8656 and enter the meeting ID 844-5228-0352. Then press pound and pound again at the next voice prompt. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by following the steps previously noted and pressing *9 on their telephone keypad or using the quote raise hand unquote function on Zoom. This will notify the meeting host that the caller wishes to speak. In the event that despite our best efforts, we are not able to provide real-time access, we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as we are able. Thank you very much. Is there a motion from the floor?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'd make a motion that we take number 4 out of order, if it's okay with you.
It's okay with me, and thank you for the notification that such a motion might be made. I'll take that as a made motion. Is there a second for that motion?
A second.
By Pat Giroux. Thank you. Any discussion on whether or not to take the take it out of order? I see no discussion. All in favor? Say aye. Valerie, Mike, yes.
Yes.
Nancy, yes. Lil, yes. Greg, yes. Paul, I heard you say yes. Suzanne, yes.
Yes.
Pat, did you say yes? I presume you did.
Yes.
Rob, I know you said yes. Miriam?
Yep.
All right. Very well. Then we will take number 4 out of order. I think, Greg, I'll let you take the ball here for a moment.
All right, here we go.
Awesome.
Hold on just a moment. I'm going to do you one better, Greg. Hang on.
Thank you for indulging me, Mike. Hey, you're the best.
Oh, there you go.
All rise.
Okay.
We're actually rising.
This is like remote learning. I pledge allegiance to the
Allegiance
flag,
to the flag of the United States
United
of America,
to the republic,
Republic,
for which it stands,
nation,
one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and
liberty
justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Thank you, Greg, for the request for that agenda item and for bringing that to my attention. I feel a little bit remiss that we haven't been doing that all along, and it never really occurred to me. So certainly it's appropriate, I feel. You know what, we didn't, it's an agenda item to have the discussion. I presume that no one had a problem with us including that as a regular action of our committee, right? Do speak now.
I don't have a problem with it, but I mean, I also don't have a problem if anybody doesn't want to do it. So, you know, it's free country.
Indeed.
That's the whole purpose of it.
Indeed, Suzanne. Thank you for pointing that out. And I would agree with you. As much as I may not agree with the person who doesn't, I would agree that it's their prerogative. So
Right.
Enough said. It will be first on the agenda next time, my last agenda. Let's see, we have a roll call to take. I am here. Carol, I do not see. Greg is here, Lil is here, Pat is here, Nancy is here, Rob, Suzanne, Valerie, Miriam, and Paul. So the only absence is Carol. She didn't indicate to me by email or otherwise that she would or would not be attending, but I was able to communicate with her by email. So God willing, she's all is well and she will be joining us post haste. That is roll call. Approval of minutes from April 14th. I emailed them yesterday, I think, yesterday morning
Yep.
early. Thank you, Lil, for sending those out. I know there was one set of edits to be made. I don't have them handy to put on screen. I apologize. But does anybody else have any other edits to make to the minutes? You guys want me to find them and display them?
No, I just had
Hey, yes.
okay, I'll talk. On the third page, towards the bottom, local rapid recovery project, just kind of the last line, 65 responses and it closes tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
Just the word closes.
Done, thank you.
And then on the last paragraph, I didn't know what the last sentence was. There is a ton of flotation. We need to keep that
I do not know what that means. There's a ton of,
flotation there.
we need to keep that relationship strong. What else? What did I write? I'll work on it and
And maybe just,
figure it out.
maybe just take it out.
Yeah.
Like that.
Okay.
There was another edit that Carol requested, I believe, and that's what I'm looking for. So forgive me.
I found that. She wanted me to add, which I already did. Let me just find that. She wanted me to, it was about the casinos. Let me just find where I put it in here.
I'm reading her email.
Okay.
Forgive me. It says, hi, Mike and Lowell. I would like to add to the
Yep.
meeting minutes. Quote, Carol asked about the potential impact to water and sewer in North Wilmington, period.
Right.
Mike Kai replied that the water and sewer superintendent was in support of the project, period. He was also asked about the potential for a casino on the site, and he said that could not happen because casinos are limited by region, and this region already has the Encore Casino.
Yep.
So Carol wanted to have that added to the minutes.
Yep, all set.
Make sure that, well, yeah, I just want to make sure that other members agree
Yep.
that that should be added. That's why I wanted to read it into the record. Other than that, does anyone see any other substantive corrections or additions to be made? I hear none. With those edits made, or, yeah, well, if we make those edits, is there a motion to approve the minutes with the additional, with the edits? Suggested?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion with the amended edits.
Thank you, Greg. A second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Paul. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the amended minutes? Valerie?
Yes.
Mike is yes. Nancy? Lil?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes, sir.
Paul?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Patrick?
yes,
Rob?
Yes.
Miriam?
Yes.
Thank you all very much. I'm going to go a little bit out of order as just before the meeting hit record, someone had congratulated Ms. Maselli. So I wanted to take a few moments as chair of this committee to express my sincere congratulations to Ms. Maselli for being elected to the Board of Selectmen. And then,
Thank you.
and even beyond that, being elected by her colleagues on the Board of Selectmen as the chairperson of the Board of Selectmen last evening.
Yeah.
Baptism by fire for Ms. Maselli, but
Little bit.
certainly, well deserved, and I'm confident that you'll do a bang up job. So congratulations, Lil.
Be the operative word there, but thank you. I appreciate it. It'll be fine, and I'm looking forward to it.
Outstanding. And of course, I don't want to step on anybody else. If you had, I think someone had said it earlier, congratulations, Lil. So I didn't want to steal the thunder, but if anyone
No.
else has any commentary
Appreciate
there,
it.
please share.
Thank you.
I wasn't able to watch the meeting. Did they change the name?
It has to go before town meeting, but Jeff is gonna move forward with finding out what needs to be done to start the process.
Yeah, so the name probably wouldn't get changed until this time next year,
Right.
right? If assuming that all the motions or administrative tasks are completed by then.
Yeah, there's like 3 things that have to be for that to happen. So, but it's
And by the way, what they're talking about, in case anyone wasn't privy to it, we've always known it as the Board of Selectmen, and the motion or the discussion suggestion was made, I believe by Mr. De Palma, but I think others supported the suggestion to change it to the Select Board, which is a fairly common thing around the Commonwealth. As I've in the past, when I've attended things for the Mass Municipal Association, you would interact with members from select boards of other towns. So, it's not like we're breaking any kind of weird precedent here. So good. I'm glad to hear that the process is in motion. Very good. Sorry, just I'm all over the board here. So we are now at agenda 3, report from planning office, new business / commercial activity. So I will turn the table over to Valerie to let us know about all the awesome things that have come through her office in the last month.
Okay, thank you. Some of the businesses confirmed that EJ's is moving into next to the Spin Studio on Main Street. I guess the Spin Studio is also installing a juice bar in the studio. So those are exciting things. 10 Church Street, they're looking for a tenant there, calling around, trying to get a tenant for that space. What else can I think of? I guess the other thing that's not so, maybe not so great, the Textron property, they submitted for site plan review for 2 projects. One is to refurbish the Textron, one of the Textron buildings, I think it's building 9, for them to keep. And then the other portion of the site to demolish buildings and propose a large warehouse as we expected. So those were submitted late last week for the planning board and will be on the June, I think it's the June 1st agenda. Yeah, June 1st agenda for planning board. We'll review those, and staff always gives comments on those. We'll, they didn't submit a full traffic study, so that will be comment number 1, and more on those to come. I think that's all I have. Can't think of anything else. Maybe Nancy has more on other businesses too.
Well, I see our friend Robert Hayes in the audience here, and he had breaking news for the Salvation Army, the old Salvation Army spot.
That was also, right, so that was submitted for site plan review as well. There's a manufacturer, they cut stone for counters and other applications. They've applied to the planning board for site plan review for that use. And I believe they're in front of the zoning board of appeals as well for a special permit for the use.
Thank you. Maybe it's my question. Oh my God, I think my audio is hosed. Maybe it's premature to ask Valerie about the Textron warehouse. But where will the trucks gain access to the shipping docks? Off of Main Street or off of Lowell? You know what I mean? I'm trying to get a gauge as to where the buildings will be and where the traffic will be flowing.
So I haven't reviewed it in detail yet, but there is, they're proposing to use an existing access point off of Lowell Street, and then to keep the driveway from Main Street. They show kind of access between the 2 uses that kind of cuts through the site. The warehouse building is proposed sort of behind, you know how there's parking lots out in front and along Lowell Street. The warehouse is proposed behind those parking lots set back where the existing buildings are. So it's not right up on Lowell Street. They're proposing some, I think it looks like green space and some parking in the front, but what you'll see from Lowell Street, if I remember from glancing at the plans, you'll see the side of the warehouse building, and it's sort of set back through. So they're keeping both access from Lowell and access from Main.
Okay. Well, I'll be watching keenly. Just interested in that. It's certainly I wish that we could have had a little bit more dialogue with them to make our case. I know Suzanne, we made a valiant effort. Maybe it wasn't all that valiant, but we made an effort with limited success, unfortunately, to communicate with them some of our ideas for some experiential retail-y kind of things that they've done in other communities, but warehousing is where it's at apparently. Anyway, thank you, Valerie, for that. Any other questions or concerns that people would like to articulate with Valerie right now? Thank you. We're going to blow over number 4 because we made it number 1. Again, thank you, Mr. Bendel, for that. Town meeting recap. The Wilmington Economic Development Committee, I can't even say the name of our own committee, WEDC info flyer that we had included with everyone who came in. Hopefully folks took advantage of and took the opportunity to read it and become familiar with who we are and what we are and have been doing. And Greg, you had indicated that you would maybe do a little homework ahead of today. Did you get a chance to do that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, I talked to John O'Neill, our IT guy, earlier today. He just gave me the latest numbers. So after Saturday's town meeting, we saw 112 new visitors to our specific page on the town's website in economic development. So that represents a 25% spike, if you will, in traffic since April, when we really started to add to it a little bit more. So that's pretty good in 1 week. I mean, a 25% increase. I think that it helped that we had the flyer. I thought the flyer was very well done. And we had 403 people attend town meeting, which is an increase over the last several years. So clearly people got a chance to take a look at the site, which is great.
I agree. More eyes on the site, more visibility and awareness of the fact that we even exist, I think is a good thing. Hopefully that will come with ideas and maybe some volunteerism and other things that will come down the pike. So it was a good idea, Greg. Thank you for bringing it up. Continuing on the theme of recapping town meeting, the articles, I don't have the numbers, but the articles related to allowing for restaurants that brew their own beer passed with flying colors. So I know we had discussed that some months ago in this committee, made the recommendation to the planning board to write up some articles to include that in the zoning, and we made that case on the floor and it passed. So thank you, all of you, for spearheading that initiative and getting that passed. As an FYI, and I'll certainly defer, Suzanne, if you want to speak to it, but a few weeks ago, I had invited the petitioners on Article 60 and 61, specifically up on Route 125 and 93, that we're asking for a change in zoning from residential to highway industrial. You all will recall, they came and discussed that, and we discussed it with them and asked questions. Those articles did not pass, so that area does remain residential currently. So I think those are the only articles that I can remember specifically that, under the context of economic development. But I would, if there's anyone that would like to talk about this or speak on these articles. Yeah, I'm sorry, Greg, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add to I want to congratulate you and everybody else on the committee. I think the brew pub went over very well, clearly passed, and it was the headline on the Lowell Sun the next day. So I think I texted you a picture of it, but that was the big headline coming out of town meeting. So I thought that was a great accomplishment for this committee. So kudos to everybody.
What's that Field of Dreams? If you build it, they will come. I'm hoping that we've built it. So the door is open, brew pubs. If you're out there listening, come on, we love you. We want you. Thank you very much. Anyone else want to chime in? I know some of you were there for a portion of, if not all of the meeting. So if you had any thoughts or feedback or.
I just have a question, just because I'm unfamiliar with the process. When an article does not pass, how long is it before that they could retake that up, or is that even something that can be done?
I think it's 2 years, but I'm winging it a little bit
so.
just from memory. Does anybody else have a different recollection of that?
That's my understanding.
Yeah,
If
2
you
years.
bring it forward as the exact same, under the same zoning, it's 2 years.
Just curious.
Anything else from town meeting? Very good. Thank you all.
Micah, can I just say, maybe we should think about doing, I don't know if we'd want to do it now or once the AG approves the article, but doing like a press release about the brew pub. Something on that idea, just to let people know, like a little, definitely up on the website maybe, and maybe something like a little blurb.
You know what, Suzanne, it's an awesome idea. I'm a little worried about it, only because there was an addendum or amendment made to the article to allow for retail sale of the product. So if the brew pub wants to can some of their beer, they could sell it on site for people to take out. And that wasn't in the original article, right, Valerie? Forgive me if I'm blowing this. Mr. Hall, the town manager, had suggested that maybe that would be a wrinkle in the article, and it may or may not pass in with that language. I'm hoping that doesn't cancel the entire article, if that line item in the revised article is not accepted. Do you remember what I'm talking about? Am I off base?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, that's right. I think that the wrinkle maybe could be just that and I didn't want to say this at town meeting because I wasn't 100% sure about the licensing and whether there's a different kind of license for retailing something that you actually brew. Typically, if you're retailing, you need a package store license, which we don't have any package store licenses available. That's not to say that one, couldn't become available in the future, or it just may be that you can't do that aspect because there are no licenses available. So hopefully it won't create any sort of problems. It's just that practically it may not be possible even if zoning allows it because of licensing. But I don't know if there are other licenses available that would allow for retail. I don't think so, but I didn't want to say for sure. So, and zoning's a long-term thing. So even though, today we don't have any of those available, we may someday. So
when do the articles get approved by the AG? Is it a July timeframe?
we typically hear from them around August, but last year with COVID, it was later. I think it was September. So it's late summer, early fall. Zoning takes effect on the day that it's enacted. It's kind of strange. It takes effect the day of town meeting, but if the Attorney General's office doesn't approve it, then it's also retroactively removed. So there's this kind of gray period where it's approved, but it's not for sure approved. So what we often do is say to folks that, if they have a project that's kind of waiting, if you want to apply for it, but then we'll wait to issue a permit until it's been approved by the AG. But last year, we didn't know how long that was going to take. So there's a little bit of a weird gray period between now and when we get the approval.
Which makes me feel like it would be prudent to wait, because I wouldn't want to do a press release and create some buzz and invite someone in and then have to pull the rug out from underneath them in September when we say, oh, sorry, come back next year. But I hate to wait. I don't know, it's a bit of a catch-22. It's a great suggestion, Suzanne. I don't know if anyone else has thoughts on that.
Well, maybe you could just include it in a line that said, pending AG approval, in Lake Paul. Yes.
What about just posting whatever was in the Lowell Sun? I didn't read it myself, but if it was good, maybe it's kind of reiterating what was published there.
That's what I was going to suggest, or maybe just putting that on our website.
You could do that. The only thing is the Lowell Sun requires you to be a member sometimes. So, so not everybody may be able to view the article.
I've read all my free articles.
Yeah, me too. And,
yeah, but although, all right, I don't know. Sorry, I'm looking for direction here. Does someone want to grab the ball and run with it? Or, I mean, I can write something and send it, but I'm not sure if there's,
I think
I
it's
can
not
do it.
a
I mean, I
bad,
can just write a couple of quick sentences and maybe link the Lowell Sun article, just a quick blurb or something. I can do that if you like, and send it off to you.
yeah, but I want to get this out beyond Wilmington. Obviously, it's great, we do it on the local press, et cetera, but this now needs to go to Boston, and, I'd love to get it into the Globe and get it in through the eyes of folks that aren't already here, and we'd like to do a little bit more of a formal press release. I'll tell you what, Suzanne, if you want to write something up, even just the bones of something, my daughter just finished her junior year as with a major in public relations and digital advertising. So we'll get some free consulting out of her. And hopefully we can get a nice press release, a professional press release.
Okay,
For free.
sounds good.
Thank you, Jackie.
Yeah, that's right. But don't tell her I said this.
Have some sort of press release developed. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Biz Now. It's a huge real estate community. It's all a digital subscription type thing. But they basically send out email blasts every morning with multiple different articles in it. I don't know what the process is to submit articles to Biz Now. I know me from working in commercial real estate, it's a source that we look at every morning just to kind of see what's trending around commercial real estate in the Boston area. So it'd be cool if we could somehow land this article in the Biz Now feed as well.
You're hired. Thank you. I'll tell you what.
Maybe the thing to do is to develop a list for press releases so that, if we do any in the future, then it's pretty easy for us to send out what we want to send out. We should maybe think about that too.
Definitely.
I have I use a media list, but it's Tewksbury Wilmington media list that I have. I can certainly share that.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, so I'll tell you what, why don't you folks, I hope it's not a violation of open meeting law, but if folks have relationships with people in the press or organizations like Mr. Giroux just mentioned, BizNow, or professional associations that maybe you're familiar with or a member of, lob it at me. Send me an email and I'll curate a list of folks that we can include on our master list. And, I can share it with everybody and see if everyone agrees with that as the list. In the meantime, we'll develop a press release related to our new article, Brewpub article, and blast it at that list and over the course of the next couple of weeks. Is that an acceptable set of steps?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Mike. And I'll take a look at Boston Business Insider to see if that's something that might be a good place to put the release as well.
Outstanding. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. Yeah, so if I don't hear from you in, let's say, I don't know, about in a week from today, I might reach out and say, hey, by the way, anybody have any media outlets that they'd like to include in the press release database, for lack of a better word? Another good suggestion. Thank you, Suzanne. Cool. Where are we? Oh, yeah, so LRRP consulting project status update. I'm talking too much. So Nancy, Valerie, you want to share where we are in that process with the team?
Sure. So we're still in the information gathering stage, or just about at the end of that phase. We, as you all know, went out and did the survey. We received 64 responses to the survey, which our consultant, Kevin Price, was pretty happy with that response in comparison to other towns that have also been awarded this technical grant. So again, thank you to everyone who did that. But and then we went on our walk through the market area, and they have been coming back and asking us for different pieces of information to kind of complete their file that they have to submit, the consultant itself. So that's kind of where we're at, him just completing his file. I think, Val, we've given him everything that he needs. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Yeah. So I guess the next stage of it would be, he was talking about doing a presentation of the findings And then, the fun part is kind of getting into what type of projects that they would recommend we do to enhance the market area. And I don't know when that is going to happen, but as a reminder, this whole project is supposed to wrap up at the end of August. So it is moving, fairly quickly. We're on target with everything that we've needed to provide.
Their portion of the project is supposed to wrap up in August with them hopefully presenting substantive suggestions and hopefully, in addition to suggestions, some direction for where we might find the resources to implement those suggestions. Is that what, did I state that the way you ladies understand it as well?
Yeah.
That's the big thing, right? It's one thing to have a consultant who comes and looks at everything, but we need to get ideas that are implementable and hopefully some funding to implement them, or at least suggestions as to how we can find that funding.
Was that list, that the links that you sent, was that, I didn't click on every one, but it seemed like that might have been some potential sources for implementing the plan. There was a bunch of links that you sent out.
Just the vacant storefront, all of those?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, but those are programs that are out there right now. That's not necessarily where we'll go for the funds, or if we could get funds from those places, but we'll see. But the vacant storefront program is something that's going on right now through the state.
Because that was actually the only one I had time to click on, but it indicated that you designate an area, and anything within that area potentially could apply for funding, a business owner, or I guess even the town maybe.
Right. I think that I personally think that having this consultant and all of the information, and maybe a recommendation from the consultant is only going to help us if we were to apply for a vacant storefront grant right now without that information, I think would be, looked upon more favorably if we had all that backing us up. So.
Yep.
Yeah, this is the homework section, right? We got to do the homework before we go and apply. I think that Maria DiStefano was the person at Mass Office of Business Development who she had addressed us or presented to us at our last meeting. And those links that were in the email that I sent out a few days ago were from her. So yeah, I think she will probably be a resource we'll pull on pretty heavily when we get to August and this lots of acronyms, the LLRP program sort of comes to that conclusion. Anything else, Nancy or Valerie, updating that? Thank you very much. Suzanne, you're on. Community beautification and or adopt an island or whatever term we want to give to it. I love the concept. I don't know how much of it fits into directly the context of economic development, but certainly a beautiful town helps our economy. So I'd love to give the floor.
So I went to a bunch of different places, and a lot of communities do it differently. I looked at communities in other places besides Massachusetts, all over the country, and actually in some places in different countries. So there's a lot of variables that you can use. Wilmington doesn't have a lot of islands, so I don't even know if we actually have one island in town. I think we have one, which is at the intersection of 38, 129, over by across from Rite Aid. It's a really decrepit island there. And I think that's going to get some work done on it when they do reconstruction, I think, of Route 38. I'm hoping anyways. But anyways, we don't have a lot of islands and we don't have a lot of space on the streets. So I looked into another program that they have, which is some communities adopt a planter. And I noticed that Tewksbury does that too. And Nancy actually shared some stuff from Stoneham, and I'm a little hesitant to share my screen because I'm afraid I'm not going to do it right. And I don't want to like waste people's time, but I could try to do. Let me see if I do share screen, and I hit that and see if can everybody see that? So
Yeah,
that's
good
that's
job.
one of the ones that Nancy shared in from Stoneham. And we don't really have anything like that that I'm aware of in town. But once again, there are areas where you can do something similar to that on, say, roadside. I sent these to you too, Mike, but let's see. Is that,
Sorry, I don't remember that, but
so let me see if I can do, so I stop share and then I had to go do another one. Hold on. This one. So then there's this one. This is from, can you see that? So
Yeah.
this one's from Lowell. Oop, I don't want to do that. And if you go over to here, you can see how just on the side of the road underneath the telephone pole, they have one area where somebody adopted that space around the telephone pole on the corner into, you know, a commercial area. Well, that's an idea to do stuff like that too. Anything where you can actually, you know, beautify, you know, different areas. And then there's other places where you can have planters, like say Main Street, for instance, you could maybe have planters along the sidewalk where, you know, you would have space to be able to do that because you don't have any areas that you could actually plant things, for instance. But it's pretty involved and you have to obviously work with the DPW because a lot of that, you have to identify who owns what land. And we may actually have to coordinate also with the state because the state owns, you know, Route 38 and 129, for instance, Lowell Street. So you'd have to coordinate with the state if you want to choose any of those areas. So it takes a lot of coordination and a step-to-step process. And you know, you can have a pretty simple form that if a business wants to do it, they can fill out. Some towns charge a fee and some towns allow you to do it for free. And those are the kind of things that, you know, would have to be discussed, you know, with the Board of Selectmen, with the town manager and the DPW. So like I said, there's a lot of coordination. And I mean, I think I have enough information to maybe be able to do a meeting if people are interested in doing that. If, you know, the town manager is interested in doing it, if DPW is interested in doing it. And I know that there's people in town that are interested in doing something, but it would really take a lot of coordination, you know, to identify who owns what property. Like take, for instance, the retaining wall on the corner of, it's actually not a retaining wall, it's actually a wall with the fence on top of it over by the new Indian restaurant on the corner of Route 62 and 38, for instance. You know, there's some work that you could do there. There's spaces that you could plant stuff at the base of the wall, but I don't know who owns that wall. Is it the property owner there? Is it the state? Is it the town? So those are the kind of things that you have to work through. You know, and the idea is for the DPW not to have to do the work and that it be done on a volunteer basis, obviously. So you'd have to have volunteers that would coordinate it. Some towns actually coordinate it themselves. DPWs do it themselves. It depends on how things are structured and what they have and, you know, time they have and workers in their budgets and so forth. And you try to leave it up to the business owner that wants to adopt that area or even a family. You know, some towns have families that adopt. I noticed that in Tewksbury, Nancy, that there's some islands where families put up, they put containers on them and they, you know, and say, you know, donated by the Brown family or whatever. So there's a lot of ways that we could work this if we're inclined to do it. But I think I have enough information to go forward. It's just, it would be, you know, what the committee would want to do and how the committee would envision me going forward with it if you want it to be a committee issue, you know, like a committee objective.
Suzanne, just a thought. I've seen like in some town, I was thinking if you're going to kick it off, maybe kick it off with a theme. So like businesses might want to get more involved or maybe families. Like I've been to different communities like where they have cows, for example, or I went to another, just a place, I think it was Newburyport, they had like fish So they pick something like as a, maybe ours would be an apple, I don't know.
Right.
And then you kind of get businesses to help towards it. And, you know, they get somebody to paint, you know, a funky apple or a whatever. I'm sure you've all seen this in different communities.
Yep.
The only reason I bring it up is maybe to kind of get people excited around it is if you did it kind of with that sort of thing in conjunction with it. And then did like a theme, maybe businesses would be more apt to jump on board.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because you'd go to their store to, I know, you know, I've seen a couple down in Florida or even down the Cape. They did sand castles down the Cape at different places that they paid people to come in and do them. And it just draws interest in the business to go look at what did they do, you know? So it's just a thought.
Yep. No,
So it goes beyond flowers, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, my take on it, I think it really does go hand in hand with the whole rapid recovery program that, you know, we're trying to or eventually going to roll out, and whatever suggestions that they come up with. I mean, the goal is to try to create a downtown feel, you know, on Route 38, 129, and, you know, lighting, streetscape, all that stuff that I think is going to be part of some of their recommendations. So, I mean, this could be where we start with that project, you know, and then it could go throughout the town. But, you know, like you said, Suzanne, there's a lot of options, whether it be whiskey barrels with, you know, the planters, or, you know, or on street poles, if it's, you know, hanging plants, you know, things like that. But I think that there's a lot of options, and absolutely you have to, you know, really look at each one of them, and, you know, what role does the DPW play? And I know that in talking with people, I mean, you know, just flower pots and things like that, you have to consider, you know, if the town's doing it, water, how costly that is, you know, again, time, energy, all that stuff. So I think that, you know, the more information that we can gather about each of those different types of all those options, I think is maybe where we should be at now. And then, you know, kind of see where the consultant comes out too, and see how we can kind of start there. And then maybe introduce it to the rest of the town. I don't know.
I do. I have a whole bunch of links to different, you know, different towns and, you know, different ideas. And like I said, some of them aren't even in the country, but they're cool ideas to think about. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea to just look at everything. And I'm thinking that maybe somebody to really coordinate with is with Dave Robertson, because I know that the state's doing some work on some of the roads. I know they're doing Route 38 to Woburn, but are they also doing from Tewksbury to Wilmington? Is that true, Valerie? Or is it just to Woburn, Route 38 to Woburn?
The only thing that I know of for 38 is from 62 to the Woburn line.
Okay.
And that's programmed for, I think it's 2025 to 2026, some years out. The Butters Road Bridge will come sooner than that, but stretch of 38 will be put off for a few years.
So it's going to go from Route 62, so right at the set of lights all the way down. Okay, so that's important to know, for instance, because that's, you know, that's an area where you might want to do some beautification because it's so ugly, but it would be really important to look at what they're proposing, you know, like, and ask for like maybe the right kind of light poles that should go in a downtown area instead of the ugly regular light poles. I don't know, but maybe the person to talk to would be Dave Robertson about that kind of stuff. And I haven't seen the plans, so.
My question on this subject is it an activity of this committee, or is it an activity that spawns from this conversation, but then goes and becomes its own entity? You know, is it another committee, you know, the beautification committee or the garden club or whatever we want to call it? I don't even want to say whatever it gets called. You know, Suzanne, you've done some of the homework here, and I know there's other folks around town that are, you know, inspired by this messaging and by the idea. You know, again, I'm asking you, all of you folks in the room, so to speak, is this something we want to have as an economic development committee initiative, or is it an initiative that we would support and that we would articulate our belief that it's good for the community and good for the economy locally. But then hopefully another subcommittee or a committee in and of itself would evolve out of that. I'm just asking what you guys think is the right way to
Well,
go.
that's how it is in Tewksbury. I mean, they have a beautification committee. Just like, you know, an economic development committee, they have a beautification committee that handles this. I mean, we don't have that. And all of the committees that did do this at one time are no longer. So it would have to be something that would be created.
I'll say this, Suzanne, if you called a meeting and said, listen, I'm going to have a meeting at Panera on July 2nd, I don't know, whatever, I made that up. So don't post that, Robert. But if Suzanne, you said, I'm going to have a meeting on X date, and we're going to be talking about, you know, Adopt an Island or Adopt a Planner or Wilmington beautification, and we're going to strategize on how to make that happen and who's going to do what and when. I would go to the meeting, but you know, is that its own? I think that, to me, I feel like, and I'm probably tipping my hat. I'm showing that my feeling is that it ought to evolve into its own thing and not be part of what we're trying to achieve specifically in this committee. But if others disagree with that, I want to hear.
No, I don't disagree with that. I think that there definitely needs to be a separate committee. I think that, you know, some of us from this committee could be on that as well, with information that we gather from, you know, some of the studies that we do.
I would agree with you, Mike. I think because it feels like it's going to take a significant amount of coordination as well. It's not, you know, not sure how other towns handle it, obviously, but I think it sounds like, you know, obviously a good idea, but it sounds like it's going to be some work involved too to coordinate it, and not something probably we could handle here.
Yeah, I also agree. I mean, as much as beautification and economic development are intertwined, it's still going to be probably a large undertaking. And I think we have some other priorities too that we could be focusing on.
Yeah. Suzanne, you mentioned a group that you were already working with. Is that just a group of?
Well, I mean, I had originally, what happened is I originally like just had posted something to Facebook and asked people like what their opinion was and what people thought about, you know, doing something like this. And it was like a huge amount of response. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, geez, oh, you know, what do I do? Because I couldn't go through all the, you know, responses and respond to each person. It was, so what I did is I just created this Facebook page that's, you know, the Beautify Wilmington Facebook page. And I mean, there's quite a few people became members of it, but, you know, so I told them just, so, you know, hold on and I'll get back to them, but they want to, you know, they want to do like volunteer work. Like they want to get out there and plant stuff and weed and, you know, do the little things like stuff like that to, but, you know, you just can't send people out to do things on, you know, you don't know who owns what property and what the situation is. You have to target what you want to do. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is figure out how to target areas and maybe just pick one area. You know, North Wilmington, for instance, is probably maybe the place to start for a small project or something, you know. So it's just a matter of like getting the ball rolling and seeing how to start. But before you do anything like that, you know, you have to have the blessing of the town manager, and you have to have the blessing of the Board of Selectmen, and you have to have the DPW on board too, to, you know, involved with it. So it's not like people just can go out and do whatever they want. And so, so that's, I guess, what I'm looking for is, you know, guidance of how, you know, this committee wants to handle that, if at all. You know, like Mike said, you know, maybe it's not anything that this committee should do at all, you know.
I'll look at Greg and Lil to a degree. If hypothetically Suzanne and Nancy came to the next Board of Selectmen meeting, mm-hmm. and briefly summarized what we've been talking about for the last 15 or so minutes, about, you know, starting to gather some people to start looking at some beautification initiatives, would that be the right approach to request an agenda item at the next Board of Selectmen meeting? to me, that makes sense, but I, you know, you guys are our representatives from the Board of Selectmen. I want to kind of pick your brain on it.
Yeah, we actually were talking last night about doing something like that with the committees, because we have 9 different committees out there that that have, you know, Board of Selectmen on it, or representation or appointments on it. So we were thinking of rotating the committees through, having like one a month come on and present. So we could certainly start with the Economic Development Committee. If that works, I could get that on the agenda.
And I didn't mean to say Suzanne and Nancy. I just picked a couple of names. I mean, I'm glad to go too, but whoever it is.
Yeah.
I don't think the whole committee would necessarily need to be there, just representatives of. But Greg, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just, well, first of all, you're no stranger to that committee. You've come in front of us a number of times as chair of the Economic Committee and done a great job. If you'll recall, that is the reason that we were able to have an outside dance recital for one of our small businesses in town. The brew pub idea was brought forward by you in front of the Board of Selectmen. But as far as the issue at hand, the only thing I don't think you'd find much opposition, other than the fact that if you recall a year ago, most of you will recall that, you know, we had an opportunity to acquire, or I shouldn't say acquire, we had the opportunity to take care of the Textron Field property at no cost. And we got major pushback on utilizing public funds on private property. And so when you're talking about using the DPW to beautify a specific area, don't be surprised if we get pushback from some that we're spending tax dollars on private property. That would be the only concern that I have, that we have to anticipate. And so I really want to make sure we identify any town-owned properties first. But when you look at the GIS map up and down Route 38, there aren't many, as been previously mentioned. So we would have to take a look at what the property is first and who owns it. And if they're okay with it, that would be the first hurdle. Second hurdle is, are people okay with spending public funds on private property? Because someone could say, well, I'd like you to clean up my yard too.
Totally agree. And I guess the real goal is to get private funds spent on maybe public property. That's like the whole goal is to maybe, you know, get, you know, on the public, you know, on the walkways or the sidewalks, for instance, to get, you know, a planter there with, you know, a private company spending their money on planting it, and in return for that, they get to advertise. So the real push is to really try to get, you know, public funds. I mean, private money spent on the public ways, and then of course, then there's the areas where the public owns, you know, which is really difficult to find out at this point. I don't really know who owns what. And then maybe cleaning those up with volunteer time, you know. But the concern, I think, with a lot of communities with a lot of this approach is that if people don't take care of that barrel, it becomes an eyesore and it's ugly. Or if they don't take care of the island that they said they were going to take care of, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't look good, and then it doesn't do what you want it to do. And then the DPW is worried that they'll have to maintain it instead of the person that signed the contract saying that they would maintain it. And so the applications that communities have, they're actually applications where the business owner says they agree to do such and such, you know. They agree to water it, they agree to take care of it, you know, 3 months out of the year, you know, plant it with seasonal things, you know, to keep it, make it look nice, stuff like that. So I totally 100% agree. It's really hard to spend public funds on private property, and there's a legal issue there. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
Greg, how do we handle now? I think we do a fall cleanup that this town sponsors.
We do, I don't know, well, the town didn't, I don't know if the town did it last year. They might have done like individual. And I know the library actually did a really, for Earth Week or Earth Month, they did some cleanups and a lot of people participated in it too. But the town has been doing, one of the first times I ever got involved in town was back in 1995. And the first thing I ever did was a town cleanup. So the town's been doing town cleanups for a long time. We do it in the fall when the water levels are low, when we go into the brooks and the wetlands and clean out all the debris out of those areas, which is a little bit different than what we're talking about. In springtime tends to be more need for a cleanup because you've had all winter and stuff gets stuck in snowbanks and it gets really icky. But like I said, the library did a really awesome job this year, and they cleaned up a lot of waste. I don't know how much they ended up getting, but I think it was a lot.
Paul, if I could just answer the question. Yeah, so obviously a town does, as Suzanne mentioned, does have a town cleanup day. I've always kind of advocated, mentioned to the manager a couple times, I'd love to see that day almost broken out by neighborhood, right? We're asking people to meet at a specific location to go clean up. I would love to almost try to encourage people just, hey, get to work on your own street and get to work with some of your neighbors on your own neighborhood. You could even make it as a competition, right? Who cleaned up and the most, and the town could perhaps look into providing cleanup bags to be distributed to different neighborhoods, make it into a bit of a friendly competition. But I'd love to see, and I know and it's good that we target certain areas, specifically, I think some wetland areas, but I'd love to just see, I look at some of the things on my street and I say to myself, geez, I got to make a trip down there and clean that up. I should do my part right here. And I know that could probably be said of a number of streets in town.
Right. No, I think that's a great thing that's done. And you notice when you drive around a lot of times, the properties or the areas of town that are, as someone mentioned, are private properties that you'd love to, like, geez, there's a couch sitting over by Mr. Ticket. Anyway, there's things where probably someone dumped it there. I'm not blaming Mr. Ticket. I'm assuming it was a nighttime dump, but a lot of the spots that you see are private property. And I'm just wondering, when we do the cleanup, do we just strictly stick to the same places? Or is there, some place that's public, has a lot of public, like on Lowell Street between West Street and start of those houses, a lot of times in those woods there, it gets quite bad. But I'm just curious how that works, or is that really just up to the landowner?
Well,
So for town,
go ahead, Val.
for town cleanup day, we do stick to public land.
Okay.
And we try to kind of keep an inventory of where we've seen a lot of debris and trash, and send folks out to those places in the fall. Greg, funny you say that. We're rewriting our open space plan update, and we actually the goal is to move toward more neighborhood based, because that's what people have an interest in. They have an interest in their neighborhood. And maybe not just one day in the fall, but whenever people want to organize a cleanup day, let's do it. We do stick to public land. I think we kind of have to. But if a neighborhood wants to go out, so Shawshene River Estates, someone was organizing a cleanup there. So the neighbors can go to their common spaces. They can, go out into the spots where they've seen trash dumped, and pick it all up, which then they don't have to, only go to public spaces if it's, the neighborhood that's involved in getting from landowners. But yes, for fall cleanup, we stick to town property.
Maybe the best you can do is kind of inspire those landowners to keep their properties cleaner. And there's certain spots that we've all seen. I mean, I think everyone's been doing spring cleaning, right, in our own yards and streets. So, okay, I figured that was the case, but unfortunately, a lot of those spots that are the worst aren't town property. So.
And so one of the ideas between like either adopt an island or adopt a container is to like kind of start a movement. Like if you see one business, in front of that business there's planters or something, that business planted a planter you know, right in front of their business. They do this in Newburyport, for instance, too. And, you know, then the other business owners say, hey, you know, like I could do that. It's really cheap for me to do. And it really makes the storefront look a little bit better. And so then, you know, so it's kind of like a snowball effect, hopefully. And one person sees it, they want to do it, they get an advertisement, hey, I can do that. Well, that's a really cheap advertisement, right? A planter for $100 and I get to put my sign up there for a year for $100, you know, something like that. So, or even for free, like I said, some towns allow businesses to do it and do it for free. And it's really hard to get private advertisement on public land. And this is one of the ways that you can do it. So, and so there's motivation there for the businesses in town to want to help us out here. So.
I want to, if it's possible, kind of put a pin. I hate that euphemism, but I'm going to say it anyway. Kind of put a pin on this subject, but what's the action item? What's coming out of this conversation? Good conversation, but we've been talking about it now for a while. Where do we go from here? You know, I guess I'm looking at you, Suzanne, a little bit here. What's the next step? And I'll listen to anyone that has thoughts or ideas on it.
Well,
I don't want to leave the conversation kind of hanging in the air. I want to have an action item.
Well, I think the suggestion to get maybe to the, you know, the very first step, it really is to see how the town leadership feels about it. We can't do anything. We can't do it in a bubble. So I guess that's the first step, is to see how the town leadership feels about it. The Board of Selectmen, the, you know, the town manager, the DPW, and see if what they think about it, what their suggestions are. Is this something that they can foresee the town doing, or is this something that, you know, worries them, they wouldn't want to do it? So I think that's the first step before you can do anything.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
just on behalf of myself, you know, certainly, as I mentioned earlier about the distribution of public funds on private property would be a concern. Also, the liability, if any of our town employees was to be contributing to any beautification on a private property would be problematic. But you know, ultimately, you know, the town leadership could be in favor of it, but it's going to lie in the hands of the businesses, right? And so if the business is okay with it, it doesn't really, or is not okay with it, doesn't really matter what the town leadership thinks.
Well, I think refining this idea a little bit in terms of a, you know, well, yeah, just that's it. Just culling the idea down to something that's describable and deliverable, and then bringing it to the next Board of Selectmen meeting for the elected members of our board, as well as the town manager, to hear that presentation and offer any feedback, suggestions, concerns. Is that the right first step here? And then, you know, then I guess maybe after that, then the next thing would be, hopefully and ideally, if the Board of Selectmen and town management are on board, at least conceptually, then, you know, maybe another meeting or a separate meeting among some of the folks, Suzanne, that you said are articulating a desire to participate in this. You know, we create a session and start to hammer out some ideas. I think ultimately the ideas and the projects that would come from that meeting would probably still have to get passed through Mr. Hall or even Valerie or whomever, just to make sure that, you know, we're not going to be going into an area that we shouldn't, when I say we, that committee shouldn't be going into a different area. So in terms of the next steps, it's go to the Board of Selectmen meeting, talk a little bit about what this idea was, get some endorsement of that, and then go to a subsequent meeting of this group that is sort of congealing, and start the ball rolling. That sounds like the right steps. I listen to anybody who would suggest otherwise.
And I can write something up too, you know, I can just write up like an outline or something with kind of the objectives. And the objective would be actually to stay away from private property. Well, I think what we're looking for is a way to beautify the public spaces, not the private spaces. So I just want to make that, you know, stress that out. I'm not looking to beautify somebody's, you know, dumpy storefront. It's about beautifying the public spaces. you know, so that we have a better curb appeal, basically.
Suzanne, I'd be happy to meet up with you
Okay,
and do a little brainstorming before we, you know, and put something together before the Board of Selectmen.
okay.
Cool. Everyone okay with that plan of action? Anyone not okay with that plan of action?
Does anybody
Okay.
want to join us?
We'll talk. Outstanding. Thank you very much. Good conversation. Went a little longer than I had expected. And I apologize to you, Nancy, because I jumped over you on the bullet number 7, the promotional video production and the status of that project. I know it's,
Yep. Okay, so we had talked about the town video through Chamber PG, and we had talked about that. We approved that going forward. Where we are right now, and I know, Val, I need to get you an invoice, but where we are right now is I have a script. I have to work on a script for the video itself. You know, I did get some, and we were waiting for the more greenery on the trees before they come out and they do their aerial photography. I also got a bunch of aerial photography that I think is superb from one of our chamber members, Joe Turner, aerial photography. He really provided some great shots that that I'm sharing with Chamber PJ, that they might be even using some of that. So we're kind of, you know, we're going forth with it. Again, he was waiting, you know, a few weeks to come out and take some other footage. And then it's really kind of just redoing the script. And so I kind of just started the script, and I would love to have some people look at it and you know, work on that with me as well. So I might reach out to 1 or 2 of you.
that's great. Yeah, I'd
And
love to
then
share.
Val, I will definitely, I'm just, you know, trying to get him to rework the invoice. I'll get that over to you. I know you need to get that, and we'll move forward. And they do move fairly quickly. So I think, you know, as we had talked about, the town is putting up $1,500 for this project, and Salem 5 is doing the other $1,000. And just on a side note, the next piece of the project that we're working on separately with the chamber is kind of it kind of goes hand in hand a little, but it's a membership video that talks about the chamber. But more importantly, and what's appealing, I think, to businesses is kind of a community guidebook. It's an ebook and a paper copy book that businesses can advertise in. And if they do advertise in it, they get a free 30-second video of their business, which I'm very excited about, because I think that that's what businesses are looking for right now. And, you know, we can use that to promote through the ebook from the town, you know, through, you know, in a whole bunch of different channels. So, and they can use it as well. So that's kind of the second piece of it. That would be late summer. But, you know, we do still get a lot of requests for even paper maps, paper books, all of that. You know, as much as I don't love that, but part of this whole community guide is a whole bunch of information about the town and, you know, all the departments and so on and so forth. So that's just a whole separate project, but still with the same company, but we are starting with the town video.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm excited to see it. I really am. I think it's seeing what they did for Newburyport and others it's inspiring. I know we're no Newburyport. They have the luxury of that sort of seaside, you know, destination kind of experience. But we certainly have some assets to show off, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they display them. Any questions or concerns for Nancy on the video?
No, I'm really happy too, Nancy. I think it's going to be really a powerful tool that we can use. And, you know, I'm glad you got the opportunity to get some money and get a professional team to help you put it together too. So it'd be pretty sharp looking, I'm sure, when you're all done.
Yeah, I also think it's super exciting, and I'd love to help with the script if you need any help with that.
Okay, Miriam, I would love that.
Old. Outstanding. Thank you. Okay, I had sent out those links that were alluded to a few moments ago from the Mass Office of Business Development. I wrote vacant storefront, etc. I did not have the opportunity to read each link and to delve into all of the programs that Maria through the MOBD has available and that she can point us towards. So I'm going to now just go to the field here. Did anyone have an opportunity to dig in? And are there any links or programs that you saw in reviewing them that we ought to be jumping in on at this point? Or do we want to sort of table that until we get the LRRP findings to decide where and how we pursue those? B, yes? Okay, very good.
I thought Val was gonna speak. Yeah, the vacant storefront program, is definitely something of interest, but again, if I'm reading that correctly, it's money that the town has to contribute to. It's not free money, it's kind of, you have a project, but the town, also puts in some money for this project. So, that's something that I guess, needs to be looked at, but, I'm going to keep, bringing this up, 52 Main Street. I'm going to keep saying it because I have this new best friend that really wants to do something over there. And, I think, I just wish that we could find some opportunity to do something there somehow, some way, because I think in terms of revitalizing that whole area, I think that's a huge first step in that building right there. I was on a call with Ken Gordon's new assistant and mentioned that yesterday to him, but and Maria, she was the one that talks about the vacant storefront program with that project, but it's something again that the town would have to buy into and put some funds, I think they match it or something, but it's something that we could do more research on, but if it's even an option.
And where was that, Nancy? Where did you say?
52 Main Street, the building that Lorraine Spada Dance used to be in.
Oh, okay, yep. Mhm.
Yeah, the owner, she's a 10-year owner. She has a business in North Reading. She wants to move her business into her building there. And now that she understands that she can have food in that building, she has folks that want to open ice cream parlors and, things like that, which would be just ideal right across from the lake.
Yep.
So.
Awesome.
I'm meeting her there at that location, I think next week, to just get a better feel for the space and what she really is looking for in terms of dollars. And, she's looking for, paving for the driveway, things like that, but more to come on that.
So let me just encourage folks to look at the MOBD links that I sent out a couple days ago. And if I'm guilty, I did not read through them. Some of them you get into it and it can be a little dry and there's a lot of pages. And so I don't want to discourage you from doing it. But for me, I felt like I needed to carve out some time to really understand what would be required of us as a committee, of us as a town, a municipality, of the business, if the business was going to be involved, et cetera. So there are a number of programs. Maria is very enthusiastic, as you all know, about them. So if you, in your doing, reviewing these links and reviewing what MOBD does, if in the process of reading it, you have an epiphany and go, oh my God, that would be perfect for blah, whatever the blah is, then, bring it. You can either start that process, make an inquiry. You can certainly reach out to Maria directly and start to gather some information and then bring it to the committee next time. I think that's the right steps here. If we only meet once a month, so it's incumbent upon all of us, if we have ideas or initiatives we would find useful, kind of get the ball started on your own, and then you can bring that ball to the committee. So I encourage you to please use that information that was sent to you. Yes? Yes, good.
Yes.
We're on 10, which is the reorganization at our next meeting. So we will decide who will be the chairperson for the coming year, as well as, I guess, the vice chair. And that would be an agenda item, first agenda item for next meeting. Nancy had asked that we include this discussion for this meeting, just to understand what the process ought to be. I regret that last year, maybe I didn't follow a real formal process. We kind of just took it up and we had a conversation, and here I still am. So we're going to have a process this year. No, in all sincerity, I guess there ought to be at least an understanding leaving this meeting as to what we are doing for the next meeting. So Nancy, did you have some thoughts or ideas on what you wanted to talk about related to that tonight?
No, I just wanted to make sure that people were clear that at the next meeting that was going to happen, so that people didn't, and if anyone I guess I think we can just all have an open conversation, and, if for sure you don't want to be chair, or if you're interested in being chair or vice chair or secretary or whatever, then, you may want to throw that out there now, so people have time to think about it, or, just so that we're not all kind of just scrambling the first agenda topic of the next meeting.
Secretary position will be available.
I think there's gonna be a lot of. I happened to notice that Mr. Giroux went dark and mute at this particular agenda item. If that's a mistake or not.
I'm here.
Okay. Thank you, Nancy. It's an entree into what I wanted to say, which is I will not seek nor will I accept anyone's nomination for chairman next month. So that being said, I really want to encourage folks, either if you feel inclined to say, you know what, I would like the chairmanship, you can say so now. Or if you want to, reach out to me over the course of the next couple of weeks, we can talk it over. But we're going to need someone to step up, is what it boils down to. And I know everyone's, sometimes reluctant, to jump into the hot seat, so to speak, but it's not that hot, I promise you. But I definitely feel the need to step away and be a member. And I promise you, I'll be the most supportive member to whoever the next chairman will be. So that's issue number one. And then the vice chair and secretary. So Secretary Lil, you've been doing a great job. And it's not an easy task. So think about someone who can take some decent notes and then convert them. And I'm sure Lil will guide you through the process in terms of who gets the copies of the minutes and all that other fun stuff. There is some administrative.
That's the easy part.
What'd you say, Lil?
So that's the easy part.
Yeah. Yeah, but there are some administrative things that need to take place. Greg, did you have a hand up?
I just wanted to say before we even got into that discussion, I think it goes without saying, I don't think any of us are really gathered here without your, all the work you put in to even get this committee off the ground. I mean, you were on the Board of Selectmen, not after you were on the board, but you really stayed on us for quite a while to get this going. So, and you've done a tremendous job as chair of the last 2 years, and I really appreciate your hard work.
Thank you, Greg. That's
Yes.
Oh, shucks. No, thank you. I'm glad we got it off the ground. I'm glad it congealed and became a thing. And I think now it's a thing that has relevance and credibility in the community. I think folks are, they care about what we say, and we don't always have to agree, do we? Right, Suzanne? We don't always have to agree, but we can get along, and we can get things done together when we put our hearts on and our heads together. So that's important, and I'm gratified by that. So long after I'm no longer a member of this committee, I'm hopeful that some version of this committee will continue to exist and continue to benefit the community. So it's good stuff. I appreciate it. We don't need to have further conversation. Unless someone wanted to advocate for themselves or someone else at this time, I would open that up to you. But I just wanted to make sure that you understand that what will happen at the first agenda, I'll develop the agenda for the next meeting, but right after the approval of minutes will be the reorganization, and we'll take it up and we'll do the vote. Now, that's weird. So let's talk about this process. That had always been the way it was when I was on the Board of Selectmen, and then it was weird, awkward. So the new chairman that was just elected would take over the meeting and run the meeting. But the last chairman developed the agenda. So am I wrong? Should I make it the last agenda item at the next meeting and run the next meeting all the way to that point?
Yes.
Yes?
Sure. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'm
Yeah.
seeing nods and yeses. Okay, so then
Yeah, no,
I
it
will-
makes sense. That way it's it's everybody's last. It makes
Okay.
sense.
Well, we could do it right now. No, we'll do it at the next meeting, at the end of the next meeting. So thank you. And I think that was what you guys kind of did last night, right? I know, Lil, you had to run through communications and stuff, but you didn't have the whole agenda to do on your first night.
No, I just had to get in a chair that I wasn't ready to get in or didn't know I was going to be sitting in. It was all fine, but
It was weird.
end of the meeting, I would vote for end of the meeting.
Yeah, I think it makes the most sense. It's weird.
Greg was very helpful it's all recorded, but whispering to him, like, what do I do? What do I say? So
think you did a great job. I'm
Well,
sorry if I sprinted out of that chair, but I couldn't get out of it fast enough.
no, you think? He was like next to me in a second. I was like, it's now. So that was fun. It's, you know what? It's all right.
Well,
You'll do
good.
it.
I'll get through it.
Oh, yeah. Okay, very good. So that's next meeting. So think about it. Think about who you'd like to see as the chairperson. If you'd like to be the chairperson, any one of you in this room would do an amazing job. I know it. I've gotten to know you all, and I think anyone in this group could handle the ball very, very well, and probably a hell of a lot better than I. So consider it strongly. If you're interested, either let me know or let one of your fellow members know, and that we can make a nomination for you. Or if there's someone that you think, oh my God, it has to be X, then maybe have a conversation with person X and see if they're on board, and we can make that nomination. So let's not leave it until next month to
I just mention though that I'm not interested in the chair position. And can I just leave it at that?
I guess I don't have to make the phone call tomorrow then, do I?
And Mr. Chairman, I know I've said this before too, but I don't, I wouldn't be interested in being nominated for a position either. So just putting that out there.
Okay.
And then there were 6.
Really dwindling down. Congratulations, Rob.
Yeah.
We'll look.
I'm just gonna also make this comment for what it's worth, but working with so many different chambers and economic development folks in the area, I still feel very strongly that there should be a town economic development person. I think that, I think that our committee is awesome. I really do. I think that a lot more could be done if there was a dedicated person. And I think that, more grants could be found, and there could be some more opportunities that, for the business community at large, if there was a person, a town dedicated person. And I'll just leave it at that.
Saw some heads bobbing, mine included.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
100%.
Me too.
I'm so upset that, the town video and the ebook, thing, I'm hesitant to put it out to businesses and ask for money for people to sponsor something and that's why I'm pushing that piece of it off, because people don't have money. And so I've been looking for supplemental money to kind of say, if you pay $250 for an ad and you're going to get like a $1,500 video for your business, we'll pick in the other $250. And there was this mock grant that, other economic development, people had found, and I didn't catch it. Because I was looking at, 5 other grants and this and that, and people, there are surrounding towns, economic folks that got $25,000 that are going to be using it for those sort of funds. So, I'm kind of, bummed about that. I went after one grant and didn't go after the right one. So, and if that person was in a position, they would have probably known that, to go after that one, so or had more time. But
time has a way of flying by, and here we are in May, and I'm thinking, oh yeah, we need to start to put the bones together of a job description and pay scale and all that stuff. But we need to start doing that effectively now. So it might be maybe it's a subcommittee or something that the next chairperson can assign a couple of folks or ask for a couple of folks to volunteer to build that job function. Assuming, and I don't want to assume anything. But presuming that there is agreement among the majority of us that we should be exploring and pursuing and advocating for such a role to be a part of the town administration, then the next step would be, let's help the town administration by, helping them develop a job description and some understanding based on what's happening in other communities, et cetera. So I think that would be work that would happen over the course of the summer and be presented. I think, and unless I'm wrong, it would be something that
I recall, I think the budget, it has to be put into the budget. Is that correct, Greg? And the budget's July? Because I remember asking the same question am I wrong? I remember asking the same question last year, and it wasn't put put into the budget for last year. So I don't know when that process.
I think the Board of Selectmen would have to embrace it, and the town manager would have to put it into his budget at the beginning of like December/January of 22. It would need to be in his budget presentation for next fiscal year.
So, Mike, if I could just add to that, I think that either somewhere around the time of November 8th or November 22nd, the manager will come to the Board of Selectmen and ask for recommendations as he begins to develop the budget process, which will then be finalized through the Finance Committee in December and January, February. So the time to make a recommendation would be actually earlier, like in November, that you would make a recommendation to, to the manager through the selectmen, but that's around the time that the budget starts to get developed. So just about 6 months away, believe it or not.
Yeah, actually 5 if you think about it, right? Because you want to have it done before you do it. So we basically have 5 meetings to get that done, and that's really, so if
Time
we
flies.
really want to do that.
Yeah, now's the time to start doing the homework and gathering the data on existing roles in our neighboring communities. And
I've actually done a lot of that. Like I've looked at the different structures. Of course, Wilmington is one of the only communities in the area that does not have an economic development person. But I've actually done a lot of research on that already. So I actually have it. I can put something together for folks, with the job descriptions if you like.
yeah, if you want to just cull it into some coagulated form for us to digest, I think that would be beneficial, Suzanne.
I'll do that if you'd like.
Thank you. Yeah, I
Great.
certainly, I think we'd all be grateful to get the fruits of your labor there. I had done so years ago, similar thing, but I kind of let it, I'm sure a lot of it's kind of died on the vine. It's probably 6 or 7 years old now. Greg, I'm sorry, did you?
Oh, I really appreciate Nancy's comments, but the only thing I would advocate for, I've kind of, privately had a lot of discussions with the town manager about the idea of a little bit broader position in terms of a grant writer. I think the town really would benefit from someone who was a grant writer who could seek grants for all departments. Although I do really agree with a lot of what Nancy said, I think the town could benefit from something like a grant writer. The problem has always been that the most expensive thing you can take on is another employee. That's salaries, that's benefits, and resident. We're trying to keep it down. I mean, obviously, you recall this year's budget was up 0.46. I think they did an excellent job of really trying to be super conservative, given all that's happened over the last 14 months. That may not be the case next year.
It was one of the reasons we really didn't push this earlier in our year. I think it was, the recognition was there last summer that as we were in the throes of COVID, that it was probably a bad timing to be throwing another job description on top of the town management and the Board of Selectmen. But I think we can't wait any longer, frankly. That's my opinion. I think the timing is right.
I totally agree. I would be, just as one member of the board, I'd be totally open and receptive to hearing it out and certainly looking at all the details and what the actual cost would be. Again, the flip side of that is that, additional employees means an additional tax increase.
Yeah. I think, I think the last year, what it's proven is the disconnect between the state and the businesses itself, in the communication between the state and the businesses. So that, that's where I see the disconnect. And I personally think, we're on these Mike Keneally calls every week and all that. I think that it should be a state paid position.
Noted.
Yeah.
Well, do me a favor, Nancy. This is just me and you talking here. Just don't let that idea die. Because I'm going to be the chairman for our next meeting, but then we're going to continue meeting. But if, in the next, leadership team, let's just make sure we keep on raising this up and don't let this, we don't want to take this up in September again anew. So thank you, Suzanne. I know you're going to put together some of the information you already have. Let's make sure, and I'll reach out to you folks again, probably in June at some point to say, what are the agenda items you guys want to talk about next meeting? Someone make sure you hit me over the head and say, economic development coordinator or whatever the position we want to call it. And we'll talk about the information that Suzanne has relayed to me and through me to you at that point. Again, I just want to keep it hot and keep it on the top burner, not on the back. We'll miss our opportunity if we wait too long. Very well, thank you. We are at 11, I think. New business, member statements and discussion agenda items. There it is for next or future meetings. New business. Anybody? Mr. Bendel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just thought this committee had great success in its endeavor to pursue the brew pub bylaw change. And I thought it would be beneficial for this group to maybe identify another bylaw that we could suggest or recommend, potential recommendation to town meeting looking forward to next year. And again, it's one of those things that kind of creeps up on you. The time to submit an article for next year would be early February if you want an article for town meeting. So I mean, this year, I think it was February 5th was one of the deadlines, and then the selectmen voted to close the warrant in March. So that will creep up on us when we meet monthly very quickly. And I wondered if that would be something we could maybe make as a goal over the next year to try to identify a bylaw that we could make a recommendation that might want to be tweaked or changed or updated. I know Nancy pointed out one of my childhood favorite places again, next to Silver Lake. I know a long time ago, we talked about ice cream and the ability to maybe sit outside, things like that, that we could look at that would benefit businesses. And I just wonder if we take that up as a goal going forward, and identify a bylaw change for next year.
I think it's great.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, Valerie, I mean, I think that's kind of what you've indicated either at the Board of Selectmen or at the Planning Board is this idea of organically over time refreshing and modernizing the zoning code to be respective of modern business. Those codes were written when the idea of a brew pub was completely foreign. There was no such thing. So the idea is, let's look at what are the ways of what are the business models that exist today that we need to accommodate. So yeah, I think it's a great subject matter, Greg, and I think we will. I wrote it down. It'll be on the agenda.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm sorry I missed both the LRRP discussion, also the town meeting recap. I feel like I missed probably some important things. I'm sure I did. But I would assume that in the LRRP project that there's going to be kind of ongoing, will there be ongoing decisions that we have to make, or are we simply on hold to kind of shepherd through that those consultants until they come up with their recommendations? In other words, will there be things we'll need to discuss every month that we kind of, are they giving us regular feedback that they're thinking of whatever, and that we as a committee need to discuss and kind of make sure they're heading in the direction we kind of like them to head? Or
Nancy, do you want to give a summary of the summary?
yeah, I guess.
I mean, I would see that definitely on every agenda, for a long time, and, because I do see that they're going to identify projects, and then we're going to have to decide which projects we can do, or,
I guess that's what I meant, Nancy. Thank you for putting it that way. I didn't articulate it very well. Are those recommendations coming real time, or are they kind of going to hit us with a big written report in August that we have to kind of, so are we getting things that we need to decide on along the way, or is it going to be just a final report?
B.
Okay.
Yeah, and then with the final report, we're hoping that there'll be recommendations for how we, not only what we should do, but hopefully how we can accomplish it, maybe whether it's funding sources or whatever. So yeah, we're looking for a substantive report in August with all of that.
Okay. And then I would assume that our committee will kind of explode with activity at that point.
Our committee and others, hopefully, yes.
Yeah.
There's so much we can do. Any other agenda items for the future? I see none. Public comments. I don't think we have any. No, Valerie, there's no callers in or anything.
No, we don't have anyone.
Okay. Next meeting date. Sorry, I'm looking at the calendar. Today's the 11th of May, so we're looking at June-ish. June 8th, June 15th. Anyone have any preferences? Or
Yeah, I'd like To request a important graduation date that'll be coming up on one of our colleagues.
Uh-huh.
Graduation is June 6th.
Oh, let's do it to June 7th at like 6 a.m.
What about later in the month, Mike, 15th, June's tough for me.
Bump it out.
June 15th?
15th, Tuesday, the 15th.
I think so.
Sounds good.
Live or this?
Ooh,
I'd love to do a live meeting again if it's safe.
I think we can, right, Greg? Lil, I mean, you guys are live.
I'd just like to confirm with the folks at Town Hall that they're make the ability to have that room available before I commit.
That's fair. Well, we don't have to decide that now. Is there, do people have a preference? And I thank you, Carol. I hear that you'd prefer to be live.
would.
Does anyone prefer to do it by Zoom? And maybe we can try to do a hybrid thing. I'm not sure about the technology, but does anyone have any strong feelings about this subject at this stage of the game that you feel comfortable talking about?
I tell you what, it would make the Pledge of Allegiance a lot easier for all of you. We're in
I
person.
missed that. Darn.
Yeah. Okay. I'll tell you, we'll table the decision about whether we do it Zoom or live. But we have confirmed that the next meeting will be the 15th, 6:15. Okay. And so Greg and I and Valerie and others will discuss where and how we meet. We still want to public comments, Valerie? No callers in?
Oh, no one's on the line or anything.
Excellent. Next meeting date. Anything else before I ask for a motion to adjourn? Greg?
I want to say congratulations to Miriam. A couple big days coming up. Senior prom and graduation. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Miriam?
Yes, congrats. Enjoy it.
That's right. I echo that. Good luck to you, Miriam. That's awesome stuff. Enjoy it. Carpe diem. Anything else? I see nothing. I would.
Well, you know what, Mike, I just thought of one thing. Sorry. Because I made big double, triple stars to myself to look at the MOBB links. So maybe we should put that on there because hopefully, at least I'm going to try very hard to come up with some and maybe do some calling on it. And so maybe put that on there for those of us to get a chance to get into that a little deeper.
I tell you what, Carol, what I mentioned a little while ago is if you are diving through that and
I'm
reading
gonna try to.
between now and the 15th, if there's some specific MOBD initiative or option or avenue that you'd like to explore and discuss, let me know and we will indeed put it on the agenda.
Okay, fair enough.
Awesome. Now I would accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Carol makes the motion. Who seconds?
Second.
Nancy, all in favor? I'm sorry, discussion. I see none. All in favor, Valerie?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Nancy?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Miriam?
Yes.
Will?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes.
Patrick?
Yes.
And Rob?
Yes.
Outstanding, people. Well done. Have a great evening. We'll talk again real soon. Be well.
Thank you.
Thank you.